Hello, fellow book lovers of the internet. It is Cecil, it is Wednesday, and it's the first AuthorTube video for me of 2023. Throughout January, as we recovered from the holidays and whatnot, I definitely didn't do a whole lot of writing. There's not a whole lot to share. I didn't make significant progress, so we're not really going to be doing a writing vlog. Instead, as we enter the second month of the year and I'm starting to feel a little more creatively rejuvenated. I'm sorry if you hear any meows, thuds. My cats have the zoomies. So instead of doing a writing vlog, I instead decided that I would talk about some of my goals for writing in 2023. Number one, and we've talked about this before, is improve my writing of fight scenes. It is definitely a weak point of mine, and it has been for a while. So I do have a few different plans for getting into that. First of all is just research. I'm going to start learning more about the types of weapons that my characters are fighting with, as well as some technical terminology. And I'm not gonna fill it with sword fighting jargon or anything like that because, it has to be readable to people who also don't know what's really being talked about. But I think that having more of an understanding of what I'm actually talking about will help me write it in a way that will make sense to anybody. It's one of those do you understand it well enough to explain it to someone else? And my answer to that question is almost always no, which is a bit of a problem when you are a writer and a public speaker for a living. Part of this plan is also going to include starting a tabletop RPG with my partners. We have already kind of started discussing world building, character building, and all of that. And because I will be acting as game master, this means that I am going to have to get into describing a lot of things, describing the fight scenes, also just describing the world around us. I think that it's going to be a really good exercise in world building, in background character building, and in, of course, describing fights. Number two is establish the science of my story. Now, this is another thing we've already talked about a little bit, and something that I have made a lot of progress on in the last year or so. Because it's science fiction and it relies a lot on interdimensional travel and time travel and a lot of just quantum mechanics and whatnot, I really want to nail out what is the science. It doesn't have to be real science, but it has to be consistent fictional science. That way it's believable and there's not any holes. I know, I have talked about this before, but it bothers me when there's inconsistencies and holes in that kind of plot building. So I I would not be able to write something that had holes in the science because I wouldn't like it. And if I don't like it, how can I expect my readers to like it, you know? I am going to do research on real life quantum physics and whatnot. My mic is shaking because of a cat. Hello. I'm going to do some research on the real life quantum physics and all of that kind of thing. Real life astrophysics and just some theoretical science to basically broaden my practical understanding. And then from there, I'm also going to make sure to read other science fiction and consume other science fiction. That means basically taking my understanding of time travel outside of the worlds of Doctor Who and A Wrinkle in Time, which are some pretty fundamental pieces of media where I got, my base understanding and interest in science fiction. And in a similar vein, number three, I want to establish the history of my story. The alternate universe that this takes place in mostly is sort of a speculative, it brings in speculative fiction, basically. It does take place majorly in the past due to time travel and being an alternate universe. But it is also a universe that kind of split off from potential realities from our universe. Some of the history is obviously different, as it would be. The technology is different, the advancements were at a different rate, and some historical conflicts happened earlier, some didn't happen at all, and some completely new ones happened. And I want to, like, more than just a vague, yeah, so basically, this happened earlier because this happened earlier. Cool. I want to actually get into what the history of this world is. Because if I know what the history of the world is, and I know, like, the general timeline of what brought them to the point where Heather ends up in the parallel, then it just, the world will feel a lot more real, I think. Context is everything. I'm going to be studying a little bit of real history and then kind of playing around with speculation. Number 4 is that I want to actually rewrite the book. I've done a lot of editing, I've done a lot of deleting things, I've done a lot of inserting things. So right now, the draft that I'm on at this moment, I call my Frankenstein draft, which is to say it's got some old, it's got some new, and it's just a bunch of pieces, all sloppily stitched together. It's a Frankenstein draft. And the thing is that because of that, it's, you know, it's a monster. It's inconsistent. It is full of different voices and writing style just based on the many years that I wrote the book over. So what I really want to do is finally start again from page 1 and just rewrite the whole thing. But to do this, I have to get past my roadblock of the first chapter. So I really just, I've got to commit to it, and I've got to find something. Something to trigger that spark of inspiration to make it happen. Because once I get past the first chapter, I think that I have an understanding of how I want the rest of the book to go. But that first chapter has been killing me. Again, I know we've talked about this, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. Number 5, last, because it will be the last goal completed, but I want to start looking, like, seriously into potential publishing agents and publishing houses. I've scrolled passively through lists before. I've looked at places that seemed like they might fit my vibe, but I've never committed to there's no dream agent, there's no dream publishing house, none of that. I don't have, like, anything in my head because, to be honest, I get really scared whenever I get to the point of, like, trying to be serious about it, which goes for a lot of things in my life. I feel like I'm really good at planning and I'm really good at even doing, but when it comes to the point of, like, putting something out there and, like, setting myself up for someone else to decide if I pass or fail, I'm not good at that. I get really stressed about it to the point of having, you know, severe anxiety. I've been doing a lot of work to get through that, and because of that, I really, even if I don't send the book into an agent this year or an editor or, you know, whatever, even if I don't, like, send it in this year to anybody, I do want to research. I feel like it's just something I gotta do, you know? I feel like I have to get myself, like, envisioning places that would publish me. I've got to get to a point where I can picture my book on shelves. Anyways, thank you for watching. I am looking forward to the months ahead of going on this writing journey with myself and with all of you. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below if you have some goals for 2023, whether they be writing goals or other goals, you know. Let's support each other and hold each other accountable this year. You can follow me in the links in the description box below, and hey, if you like chatty videos about writing, consider subscribing, because I make these videos, or I'm starting to, at least a couple times a month on Wednesdays. Bye.